Idaho, neighbors. A little early, a little shorter. I do gotta do stuff at 8 my time, so we will do what we can until then. All right. Yes, little background music. So we left off right thing up here. We were about to figure out how we're going to do our regions and start building the API to make land blocks. So yeah, we'll probably go ahead and get this in use thing plus the other whatchamacallit, name pools for NPCs and settlements. Was it were those the only two name pools we had to come up with? I think it was. Because we do need a pool of those. So I think that was it. I'm just looking through the rest of the things here. I think the only things, because characters we don't name. Mobs will be defined in the mob types. Yeah. The only thing we could consider is on NPC types. Oh, wait. Never mind, we got a name pool for NPC types already. So the type of NPC will have separate name pools for them. Okay. Oops. I forgot I did that. I'm guessing we didn't do the same on settlements because those aren't defined. No. So we do need a settlement name pool. I'm thinking about this one though, the NPC one. Is this the way to go? Do I have a name pool per type? Maybe. Because that way we can target unique names towards blacksmith, like Iron Hammer is your blacksmith name. It wouldn't make sense for your technology dude. Like your technology dude might be Megabyte. But so we could have unique name pools for things. It's already being referenced by something. Oh, it's in the entity stuff. Never mind. Settlements are just names, though. So that does need a name pool. I think that belongs in the... Let's see. We don't have that in the world configuration. We have all the other NPC stuff. Or that's not what I'm talking about. Context is what I want. We have that in the definitions is where we have NPC types. We probably need to put a settlement name pool. And it's just going to be similar to what we're doing on regions. Have an in use or a use count on that one. Though this is in use. We can't have duplicate region names, but we'll have a use count on NPC names because there can be multiple iron hammers or megabytes in the planet. Maybe we just enforce they can't be in the same region. the megabyte from region 1 is different than the megabyte from region 2. I don't know. Okay, so let's start with that. Let's get those couple boring things out of the way. And then we got to think about how we, and I'll also have it add region 1 as seed data to the regions table. And in use is true because we're going to put the initial land blocks in there as well in the seed table. So let's have that do grunt work while we think about what we need to do next. Let me just do this branch first. I don't have to do it later. Region, and land block generation. New branch, create, yes. All right. And Claude opened up a new model today, updated model of Sonnet. We were on Sonnet 4.6, now have 5. This is supposed to be a similar capability of Opus 4.8, which was a lot more expensive, I think, or I know. So it will be interesting to see how it works. It also could potentially use 35% more tokens. We'll see. We've been stuck on medium. We haven't been using the higher stuff, but we could ramp this up pretty good. The ultra code. Wow, it even animates that. I don't even want to know. So yeah, we're just not there. We're just keeping it at medium for now. I don't really see a need for doing it much higher unless we get into something really complex. So we've had decent enough responses with medium. Low is just abysmal performance, so we're not going to go that low. Okay, so I've added an in-use flag to the region object that will need to be propagated down. Can't spell. I always do E instead of A on that. Propagated down into the EF and database with a default of false. We'll need to add an initial seed record in the region table called with a name of region. We'll just say start region, like start region, as a placeholder, and mark it as in use, as we will be adding an initial set of land blocks as well later. I also need a new table in the definitions that is a settlement name pool. Similar to regions, but instead of in use, do use count, as settlement names don't need to be unique and could be used multiple times. Seed it with a single record and with a name of start settlement and use count of 1. I think that's it. Okay. We'll let that get going. Now we got to think about how we got to do region or land blocks. So this is where we start figuring out how to even begin to test this. What are you waiting for? You already done? So say we give it a region. We're going to seed it with a region and some land blocks. That's fine. I never did decide on coordinates. Let's look at coordinates really quick. Do I have that still? I don't remember. Let's see. I and I wonder. I do have AC Explorer. This will be how AC did it. We can look at the coordinates in this. Oh my god, it's so old. So old. Run it. Copyright 2000, Zug Software. All right, so how did it do coordinates? Oh my god, it did not do what I wanted to do. What is this thing? Does it think I do this? Store property out of range. Okay. I grabbed the screen behind it somehow. All right, it's bigger. Coordinates. All right, so bottom right of this is 100, 100-ish. Oh, it actually puts north, south, east, west on it. So in the middle here, it's going to be 0 south, 100 east. That's interesting. In the middle here, it's going to be 0 south. So 0, 0 is in the middle of the map here. So yeah, it's like right here. So it is 0, 0 in the middle, but it uses north, south, east, west, not negatives. So that doesn't help me. It does do 0, 0 in the middle, so at least confirms that. It does not help me on coordinates of do I go negative left, positive right, positive north, negative south? So I'm leaning. Let's think what other games we can look at that do this. WoW is interesting. We could look at WoWhead and just look at some random things. Dip, dip, dip. Change brain to WoW mode. What's a WoW critter? Or an NPC. Let's just alchemy. Let's do an NPC. Okay, so here's a map. This is what I wanted. So this is 4490. So I go left, then it goes down, right, and it goes up. Because it goes 43 to the left, 44 up. I bet you it's, and then 91 down does go up. So is this one 0, 0 at the top left then? Is that how WoW does it? To keep numbers positive, maybe? I don't mind doing that. Just feels like middle 0, 0 makes more sense. But is negative numbers really user friendly? Like that makes you have to think, do I go left or that people are gonna have to say have the same thought as I am. Like, well, is negative north or south or east or west? If I just say 0, 0 is top left, and then 51, 51 is bottom right, that's straightforward. All right, so it did stuff. Do, do, do. Yeah, I think it's okay that we are doing fixed things on these seeds for these. It doesn't really matter. Like the settlement names aren't the table doesn't matter. I'm just going to pull the name. I'm not going to join it on that. And the regions will get joined. But if it's a set one to start with, I don't really care. It's not a big deal. Okay, so in theory, it says it's done. Let's look. So we have public definitions, refresh. Yep, it is done. Settlement name pools, ID, name created at use count. And if we look at it, data, there's our record, use count 1. Okay. That all looks good to me. And then in regions, here, let's refresh these guys. Columns in use. This needs to refresh. There we go. Data. There's our data. True. Cool. So those are B's. We had trains as A's. What did it make settlements? Did it make it B's as well? It doesn't matter. I'm not using those. I don't care. I just need the name to say it's in use. Okay. Okay, that's done. Easy. Already changed all these. So I guess it did 2 migrations, one for settlement stuff and one for seeding and one for adding the column. So region got modified. It took out my comment. Good. Settlement pool name got added. The world config. We have our new settlement pools. Got all that stuff in there. What are you moving for? Hello? Oh, it was. Why is it doing that? Why is it moving it on its own? What the hell? That's very strange. Whatever. Let's forget that that ever happened. That's the table getting created. And this is a seeding the settlement pools. In our world, this is the adding of the column and seeding the region. Cool. And we have this defined for later. Not sure how we'll use that later, but we'll see. We'll see if it'll tack in the land blocks fine. Okay, so back to our numbering system. Now I'm starting to lean just 0, 0 top left, 51, 51 bottom right, simply because negative numbers are confusing. We've already determined that by this conversation. So, okay. So if we go that route, then we need to seed some land blocks, and there's not much to land blocks. We don't have a land block open yet, so land blocks. We can give it the region ID. It'll get a unique land block ID. We'll give it the XYs, starting with 0, 0, going to 51, 51. We will let Claude do the adjacency data. We'll validate it, but we'll let it figure that out. Because we'll tell it how to fill this in because we need to know it. But well, it knows how to fill it in based off of this. Sort of. Jason's data should be the region ID and the land block ID. I don't care about the XY. Because I know what my XY is on this. And if I go north, either the X is going to decrease or the Y is going to decrease, or it's already 0 and we go to a 51 on the next another region. So we'll know if the region ID here is different than the region ID here. So yes, this is really region ID, land block ID, what that really is. Created, that's fine. These are going to default to whatever. We will say it has a settlement on one of them somewhere. And I guess we could make it that would be what? To get the center, it's 26, 26. Because that gives you 25 up before you and then 25 after. That gets you your 51. Because you go over 25, you got 25 on the left, 26, and then it gets 51, it's another 25. So yeah. We'll just make it nice and centered to start with. And this will be false. Next song. Do some Led Zeppelin. Okay. So then I think we initially just make all these regions. And then we can figure out how to traverse them and create new ones as it goes. I'm just trying to think out. We're gonna need something to test this with outside of just having it call an API. I want to visualize what's happening. Like I want to be able to see moving around. Alpha's not impressed. He's on his back staring at me like, Dad, you're weird. My camera's not working for him. Otherwise, I'd show you. We've got to build some tooling to test with. We can't just rely on the server API running. We're going to have to build some mock front end just to be able to show us some stuff. How do we do that? What's the easiest way to? Because I've kind of got a mock thing on the game MVP. It just doesn't move outside of the one land block. I am sure Claude could give us a Windows presentation foundation app that does it fairly easily. It's not something that actually ships. It's just something that do initial testing with. Because we're definitely going to have to test things. Because this is a giant. Yeah. Okay. So let's start. Let's do step one. Let's seed our land block database. Okay. Now we need to seed our land block table for the first region. This should start at x equals 0 and y equals 0 as the top left of the region, and build out land blocks through 5151 at the bottom right. The adjacency, no, J. That's spelled. No, it's not. What I'm putting adjacency. I was like, that doesn't look right at all. It's still not right. There we go. Adjacency data on each land block is a list of the 8 land blocks that surround it, if they exist, from each cardinal and diagonal direction. North, south, east, west, northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. In the JSON block, and be clearly noted which direction each entry is for. What else did we talk about? We need to tell it. That's the adjacency data. The block at 2626 will be marked as having a settlement. We're definitely going to want more, I think. There's a long way to travel to get to a settlement if you get dropped way the hell out there, but this is just starting testing data. And none are Limen influenced or have any players. They should all be in the initial seed region we just added. These will be the only land blocks we manually add. All others will add dynamically over time. Okay, so if we get that data in there, we're not gonna have any of the subland block data yet. We got step one. Let's get our regions to work, and then we're gonna work on a UI that I can test this with. But we're gonna have to build the UI plus the APIs that the UI calls to do the stuff and the things, right? So, which means it need do we we're not we don't have all the account stuff yet, so it just needs to be able to test. How is that going to test? We got to think about this. So we're going to have an admin tool, I guess, to navigate around the world. So why don't we just build it? It's not something we ship. It's just something we use on the background. So that doesn't count towards, and it's not even assets. It's not like graphics and dialogue and stuff that's AI generated. That's just a tool I'm using in the background. So it's not an issue disclosing that AI built that UI. It's just a backend admin tool. So we can build an admin tool that is, let me just let this go first. We'll need an admin tool. We'll start the admin tool that will let us traverse land blocks and drill into, eventually it'll work to be able to drill into the subland block and all the details in there. But initially, we just need a Windows tool that points to our API that loads whatever we want. So what is that going to look like? We'll say when we load it, start in the middle of the seed region, of the first region. We should be able and show subland blocks if they exist. They won't initially. Yes, sublands are a separate concern. And allow us to translate in the different directions of land blocks. We'll just start there and make sure that works. Which means we'll have to build the API out to say, do I have any place to store API keys right now? I don't think I really do. It's going to have to live somewhere. I think in the end that probably lives in the secret store in Azure or AWS, but initially, it probably has to be in the database. And these APIs aren't real true what the game will do. This is just like administrative APIs. So they have to be not anything that the main game would use. Like if somebody were happen to catch the URL, I say happen, it's very easy just to stick a packet sniffer and look at what URLs it's the game client's hitting. Not rocket science. Those have to be completely different looking than what these admin ones do, just so that you can't guess it. Did it really do that in 2.5 minutes? Because that would have taken me a day to build all that shit out. Let's see what it actually did. Successfully 2,704 land block. No, not 52 by 52. It's 51 by 51. Oh shit! I told it was 00, didn't I? Mother effer. Damn it. That was my mistake. It did exactly what I asked it to. 00 through 51 51. That's 52 by 52. That's not right. And I mistakenly said 51 51 is the bottom right, but it's 50 50, so that we have a middle row at 26, a middle land block at 26 26. So we'll need to fix that. Don't be mad at me, Claude. I'm sorry. Fix it. It's going to take out, what is it, like 100 land blocks? 100 plus land blocks, 104? Something like that. You take one row off of there. And it's 52 by 52, so that's 104. Hey, look, the rollback works. We'll be the judge if everything's correct. It's saying it's correct. 103 land blocks. That was, well, yeah, that's true. It's 103 because it's not 52 and 52. It's 52 and then 51 because that bottom one's shared. So yeah, 103. Fix the bottom right bound is now max equals 50. Okay, now let's see what that looks like. So we are seeding the world. So this seeded the regions, and this seeded. That's the start region, yeah. So it pulled that down from there, a constant. Min 0, max 50, settlement at 26, 26. So it defined the JSON like this. I'm curious what this JSON data looks like. So it's going through each one of them. It gets the land block ID. Oh, so it's okay. That's how it's generating it. I see. Okay. And then this part is a different direction. Oh, it is a land block ID. Okay, so neighbor ID here. Okay. Yeah, see, I wouldn't have done the fancy loops and stuff to do this by hand. I would have been like, all right, let's just build a giant insert statement. So, and that'll make sense what it's doing. It's basically just looping through the different coordinates and creating all the land blocks. And because it's doing a pattern for the GUID, it can predict exactly what the ones all around it are based off of coordinates. So that worked. It's not going to be that way in the real world when new stuff is generated, but that's fine. We'll know everything at that point. So okay, so that was that. It's basically just seed data. It really did nothing. This is doing nothing but adding data to the database. So if we go look at the database now, how did I do this? I double clicked it. I see. Close, 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 close. So if we look at land blocks now, refresh this. 6 meg now in there. Here's all of our land blocks. Adjacency data, east, region ID, land block ID. That's crazy. These are going to be very large values. Like if I look at this here, there's no word wrap option here. Word wrap. Okay. Is there no prettify? No, it's just minified. Oh, auto format? There we go. Nice. So east region ID. So on the first land block on 00 east is going to be 10. All right, so if we come down here to 10, this guy, this is his land block ID, 0001 on that last octet, or last section, 001. That's the land block ID. That's correct. There isn't anything west of it. There isn't anything north of it. That's right. There's nothing northeast of it, and there's nothing northwest of it, because that's off the map. And there's nothing southwest of it. We just have south and southeast as well. So south, if you go down one, that puts us at X0Y1, which is this guy. Oh, crap. So that is just 100 on that last one. I think I'm right about that. X0, Y1. Right? Why is this 10K? It's making that one not what I think it is. South. So if we're at 00 and we go south, we'll go down to 01. So why isn't it this? Is this just getting cut off? It is. Damn it. Never mind. That's right. Sigh. Okay. Southeast would be 11. 11 is this guy. So 001, 0001, 4 zeros. Yep. So that's the right one there. Okay. No way in heck I'm checking 2,700 of these, but it looks reasonable. That one was right, so I'm just going to assume the rest of it's right because it uses the same formula to figure them out. So, an oddball in the middle of oddball ordering there. It just does that randomly, whatever. Okay. Cool. So there's that. Created at. And then if we go to 26, I don't know if we're going to be able to get the. We'll get there. 26. 26. So this guy should be the only one with has settlement set. Yep. Very cool. Okay. So that's a lot of land blocks. You're definitely going to need some more elements in this initial region. For sure. It's going to take a while to get out of these regions. So if these are each 51 by 51 wide, and let's say you're in the middle of it, to get out of this land block, I think we were saying 5 seconds is the minimum to move, but that was like probably lowballing it, so maybe it's 10 seconds. But let's do 5 seconds. You've got to move over 25, and then you've got to move another 25 times 51. So 25 times 51 subland blocks is that, plus 25 times 5. So that's 108 minutes. So an hour and 48 minutes to get out of this region. And that's if we keep it at 5 seconds. If it's 10 seconds, it's double that. I think that's, I don't know what the number is going to be yet. I don't know what's going to feel good. But I don't want you to go super fast across the map. So if we like double that to 10 seconds, that's approaching 4 hours, 3 hours and 45-ish minutes, 35-ish minutes. If we say it takes a minimum of 15 seconds, it takes 20 seconds, that's times 2 again. So then we're looking at over 7 hours. It might be 30 seconds. So that's 20. So divide it by 2 times 3 instead. 650. That's almost 11 hours. Man, 30 seconds seems like such an eternity to move between subland blocks. But that just means the regions aren't that big. I just have to kind of balance that. And is 51 wide right for region size? Do we double that and leave it as 50 inside of the sub blocks? We could also just double the number of subland blocks to 101 instead of 51 wide. And then they're just bigger subland blocks. And that doubles the time, right? And then we can, instead of it being 30 seconds, and it can make it 15, and then it feels better, but you're not flying across the map. It takes you 10 hours to get across the map, minimum. You get across the region, I should say. Well, that's only halfway across the region. If you get an entire region across it, that's 20 hours. Let's see. Let me just time out here. Stopwatch. Start. That's 15 seconds. That's 30. Huh. $30 feels long. Yeah, so this is tackling halfway across a region. Is 10 hours minimum at 30 seconds. Almost 11. I really want to take 20 hours to get across a map, a region. Because you got to think about, like, you go into a subland block, what do? If all your intent is to travel through it, waiting 30 seconds is an eternity. Maybe 15 is our number. Like, cut that in half. 15 wasn't bad. Gives you enough time to get there, look to see if there's anything you want to do while you're there, and then continue. So then it makes this number be how to move across an entire region. Takes you almost 11 hours. Otherwise, it's like 5.5. That's probably reasonable. And if I want to make that bigger, I can always make regions bigger, but that's probably okay. So if we do 15 seconds, then that's fine. Then we don't have to. Then what we've done here is enough. Because what did we say? We said 51 times 25 plus 25 is 1,300. So land blocks from the middle. And if we say 15 seconds per sub land block, it's that. 325 minutes, yeah. So 5 hours and 25 minutes. And it's going to take longer naturally because people will stop and do stuff. And the whole point is that anywhere, any decent distance from a settlement, you could have cool stuff that you want to do anyway. You don't have to go traveling forever. Somebody's going to do it, right? If this gets out there and people get a hold of it for real, I mean, people do stupid crap just to try to push the limits. So I wouldn't put past someone to go, let's see how fast I can go. And if it really is an infinite world. But if it takes them 5.5 hours to get halfway across it, then, and 10 hours and 50 minutes to get across an entire region, let's just say, how long does it take them to get across 1,000 regions? Times 1,000. That many minutes. That's 10,833 hours, which is 450. So in a year and a third, they'll get across 1,000 regions. That means we're not even close. Like, these GUIDs will not run out ever in that case. Because, like, these GUIDs will be all unique, right? But the regions will be 1,000 of them, and there is many, many more of those region IDs we can make. So, and that's if they go in a straight line and then they do optimize it to 15 seconds per. Like, they get there in a year and a year and 90 days. So, yeah. Good luck. Okay. Could probably reduce it to 10 seconds even. I wouldn't be against that. I mean, that reduces that, but still, say it takes a third out of that. Now you're at 300 days for getting 1,000 regions. So you're still looking at almost a year. And then whatever. I think it's fine. Okay. Okay, so we got regions. Now we need to build two things. We got to build a tool that we can use to navigate around the world as an administrator on the back end and see stuff work, right? And then we need APIs to support that will be different from the publicly accessible ones for the actual game. It needs to be a completely different authentication method. So what you sneaking up on me for, Alf? The 5:15. Come here. So how do we do this? Let's think. APIs. Where do I store keys? What, Alf? You had your dinner and everything already. It's nowhere close to your evening break time. You're pitiful. How do we do this, Alf? Has to be secure. I think from a client perspective, the idea is there's got to be something that it can authenticate to somewhere to get something to get started, right? I don't want to hard code stuff. That's most definitely not ideal. It's gonna be something that potentially is sniffed. Maybe. Because I got to put it somewhere to call an API with a key, or if I'm storing this in a secret manager or something, it's got to know how to get access to that. To securely communicate. It's a public thing, so there's got to be something. But basically, what I feel like will happen, what I should do, is, yeah, there's going to be some API that it. The way you see, like for example, when you log into Diablo 4, you see connecting to authentication servers, and then you authenticate, and then you get a personal token that it's then using that has a lifespan on it. And that lifespan will renew over time, but that authentication server has to be somewhat public. It has to be public, and there has to be a known credential that it's using to connect to it. But it also has to handle DDoS attacks and somebody spamming it, right? So there's got to be some throttles on that. There's got to be request throttling by source IP. And then that's some research to do. For the admin side of it, that just needs to be something that isn't the same location as what the client is going to be using. That's just got to be independent and unknown to people. And that API key never goes anywhere but here. So it's one thing when you're making like the website version of this is one thing, right? Because I can do a server side authentication to get their token and then return that to the browser for any web not server side API calls. And then all they got is their personal token that's has a lifespan on it that will be throttled, right? So there will be rate limits on those. But for mobile, Windows, don't have that luxury of having a server side client to do stuff. That is on their machine. Those credentials got to exist somewhere. And there's only like so many layers you can put in there that make sense. What are you staring at, boy? Don't get all grumpy. Because even if I say, well, go here to this API to get the credential, and that credential changes constantly, that API is going to be the one that gets hammered now, right? So, I don't know. I don't know what the best practices are. I got to look into that a little more. I don't know that we need to answer the question right now, but I definitely know the admin one has to be something completely separate from the client so that they are unknown and not discoverable. Okay, so let's do a little chatting first here. Maybe we just have that discussion now. Just figure out how we do this. I've just there's so many ways that people do APIs these days that I just don't understand how they're secure. When I read it, I need to be convinced that yes, that is a secure. There's not a major hole in that. So, what is this? 2 times more use. Oh, this is Sonnet 5. Oh, Claude Cowork usage. Well, that's right. They've added this stuff in. Oh. I don't really need this to be co-work. I just need this to do work. Just do some research for me. Alf is being weird over by the door. Hang on a second. Let me go see what the dummy's up to. Hold, please. All right. A little skink lizard on the windowsill outside that he was very upset about. We're good now, though. Okay. So that's right. They just added this. I'm going to add to that. Just don't keep repeating my damn self. Here, docs, this stuff. 1% of capacity use. All right. I need to figure out a secure API structure for this game in admin tools. For the admin side, it should be undiscoverable by the public easily, or by the public period, and have unique authentication methods compared to the game. For the game, I need to avoid DDoS on and handle initial authentication to get a personal token that is likely time limited. This will be a modern day REST service. What are the best practices for this? And give me the not what's the word I'm looking for? Not reliable sources. There's another word. Boy, he's something else today. It's the word that means like they are trustworthy and well known. Jesus, words are hard. What do you think about that, Alf? Do you want to say hi to everybody? Put your face on cam? No? You don't want to lick me? Okay. Weirdo. Here, let's get a hug. Let's get a hug before you get all cuddled down. Yeah. What's the word I'm looking for, Alf? Reputable. Yay. Thank you, boy. I appreciate it. You made me think of the word. Mwah. Thank you. And I'll put you down. You just want to stay now, huh? Okay. You just want to lick. That's all you want to do. Lick me and you're going to lick your crotch. Thanks, boy. And give me reputable sources for this. Go. Think. Because I'm just trying. I mean, I don't know any other way to do it. Like, you've got to provide something initially to get that. And that's got to be publicly available, which means that thing has to be. I mean, all the APIs need to prevent DDoSes, but So there's has to be some sort of rate limiting going on there. But you've got to have something to make sure that's a legitimate request from a game client to get a token. And then that token needs to be used later. So you've got to somehow embed credentials or something, or just make it publicly accessible without credentials to get that initial token. And the payload will have to be, the game has to know what to put in there to be something that looks reasonable. Now that can be sniffed, obviously, but at least it is looking at decent stuff. I was looking at OWASP.org. I trust that. Microsoft for rate limiting. Different RFCs for JWTs. And I really want to understand JWTs because it's going to go down that road. I know it's going to go down that road, but there's something I'm missing clearly to understand how it's secure. 2 API services split at the network layer, not just the route table. Yeah. Don't treat admin routes versus game routes as just a routing considered inside one ASP.NET Core app with different authorized policies. That's necessary, but not sufficient. The real isolation, you want separate signing keys, audience claims. Admin JWTs and game JWTs should be issued by logically distinct token issues. Yes, I agree. Different signing keys, even if it's the same process. A leaked or misconfigured game client token must be structurally incapable of being accepted on an admin endpoint. Validate the odd strictly server side. This is the single most commonly skipped check. RFC 8725 explicitly calls this out. And audit tooling on, it's okay, it's a helicopter, Ralph. You're okay. You're not going to die. And audit tooling on real APIs finds it unvalidated something like 2/3 of the time. Network level restriction is the actual control. Route obscurity is not. Undiscoverable via an unlinked path or subdomain buys you a reduction in automated scanner noise, nothing more. And even that's weaker than it looks. The moment you provision a TLS cert for that from a public CA, it lands in the certificate transparency logs and is trivially enumerable. Huh, okay. If you want it actually hidden, either run it on a wildcard cert, put it behind a VPN, WireGuard with no public DNS record at all, or use MTLS at the reverse proxy so connections without a client cert never even reach the app layer. For Solo Dev Project, the cheap effective version is admin service bound to a Docker internal network port plus a VPN tunnel for your own access, not a public facing route at all. Okay. MFA required an admin, not optional. Yeah, that makes sense, but I don't deal with that right. Not this early in the game. We can add that later. Alf, what are you getting all worked up for? It was a car that drove by after the helicopter flew over. They're clearly coming to get you. They're going to take you away as a bad dog. Server on JWT local credentials required. Optional SSO only on the live server, the standard pattern. Login endpoint, post auth login, username plus password against your local auth DB. That's true. The auth is the user's credentials. What am I thinking? I don't have to put anything in the client. And then you get issued the JWT. Why I went down this weird road of having something in the client, I don't know, but it's just going to be their credentials. Duh. Okay. So hash it in there. Yeah, I would definitely not run my own security for this. Argon 2 ID. Huh. Endpoint is your highest value abuse target. It's necessarily unauthenticated. Yep. And password hashing is deliberately CPU expensive, which makes it a cheap amplification vector for an attacker. Yep. We learned this recently, even with just bcrypt. A flood of logging attempts burns your service CPU on hashing, not just bandwidth. Rate limit it separately and more aggressively than the rest of the API. Partitioned by IP and by submitted username with a low ceiling. Yep. NIST guidance worth following. No forced periodic password rotation. Length over complexity rules. Hang on. No forced periodic password. Yeah, I know that is becoming the standard these days. Length over complexity rules. Okay. Yeah, because you could have a short password that has special characters, but it's still not as good as a longer one. Screen new passwords against a breached password corpus rather than inventing your own complexity regex. Yeah, okay. Short-lived access token plus rotating refresh token. Access tokens, JWT, 5 to 15 minutes TTL. Signed RS-256. Carries minimal claims. Sub, odd. I need to learn more about JWT. I've heard all of these terms, but I don't know how they work. Valid algorithm server side explicitly. Don't trust alg from the token header. This is the classic alg confusion non-algorithm attack class that RFC 8700 exists largely to kill. Refresh token, opaque random value, not a JWT, stored server side hashed. Longer TTL, days, weeks, rotated on every use. Issue a new refresh token each time one is redeemed and invalidate the old one. If an already used refresh token is presented again, that's a signal of theft. Revoke the entire token family immediately. This pattern is the core recommendation of RFC 9700. It's the right model, even though you're not doing full OAuth. The threat model is identical. Refresh token. So you have an access token. I guess I want to understand what the refresh token, how that works. Trade-off, you need to actually decide on not default into. Stateless JWTs can't be revoked before they expire. For a game, this means a banned player keeps acting on the world for up to your access token TTL after the ban hits. 2 ways. Make the access token very short, 60 to 120 seconds, and accept the extra refresh endpoint traffic. Keep a small in-memory Redis banned revoked set that your auth middleware checks on every request regardless of token validity. O1 lookup doesn't undermine the stateless benefit of the 99.9% case and gives you instant enforcement. So keep an in-memory list. And I guess that list would just be we banned it in sometime in less than the TTL that is set. So it's kind of they're very short-lived banned revoked list. SignalR validates that connection established, not per message. Once a website handshake sees an expired or revoked token, does not drop the connection. Microsoft's own SignalR Orthodox is explicit about this. So if you're relying on a token expiry alone to cut off a banned compromised account, it won't work for anyone already connected to the hub. Use your ban revocation check to also actively force disconnect the live SignalR connection. Okay. SignalR specific rule. Browsers can't set custom headers on the WebSocket handshake. So SignalR.js client sends the access token as an query string. Okay. ASP.NET Core logs full request URLs, including query strings at information level by default, meaning your access tokens land in your logs unless you explicitly express it. Logger set to warning plus. Easy to miss, worth fixing day one. Got it. A gap in my current design. Network transport layer, layer 3 and 4. Volumetric floods. Nothing in core touches this. A SYN flood or UDP amplification attack saturates your NIC before Castrol even sees a request. Has to be stopped upstream. Provider level mitigation, Cloudflare, AWS Shield, standard on a CloudFront or ALB. Yeah, no, that's, yeah. If I host it somewhere, I'm not going to use Cloudflare, it's damn expensive. I would just put it define a global accelerator and ALB, and that gives me the Shield standard. Easy. Layer 7 at the application, though. Request floods, slow lorries, auth endpoint hammering. Built-in rate limiting middleware does real work. Fixed window, sliding window token bucket, occurrence limiter, partition by IP, authenticated user API key. Token bucket is the right shape for bursty player traffic. Allows short burst, constrains sustained rate. Fixed sliding window for the login endpoint where you. Apple alert limits abuse mitigation against that. Okay. Your project docs treat self-hostability as a first-class non-negotiable constraint with no hard external service dependencies as a rule. It's the right call for longevity, but it means the player running Docker Compose up on a home connection or a budget VPS gets none. That's their damn problem. Document Cloudflare tunnel free tier outbound as an optional recommended layer for self-hosters. Okay, I mean that's fair. The concurrency limiters, yeah. There's all the sources. Good sources too. OWASP stuff, RFCs, NIST, Microsoft. Yeah, I do want this sketched out. Okay, so that all makes sense. I want to learn more about JWTs. I generally know what they do, but this is taking it a step further with all these different the stuff it talked about with where was it? The different claims. I don't know much detail about the different claims and how that all works. Okay, so please sketch out the flow. explain how JWT works at a higher level, and how the different claims roles work. As I have a general idea, but haven't implemented them myself yet. I will close the gap you mentioned simply by putting in documentation that any, what was it, just for DDoS is the main thing? Um, any security like Cloudflare, Tunnel, or the likes is up to them to handle. DDoS, etc. And make it more of a soft requirement. But I don't want to completely loosen up the requirements for self-hosting. All right, let's see if it gets me more details here. Still don't know why it does this. It's been doing this for a while. Like when you hit enter on a new entry when you're at the bottom, it like scrolls you back up in the middle of your last response. I don't know why it does that. You gotta scroll down again. Well, I've wanted to learn how JWTs are secure for a while, so we're getting to do it now. But what this sounds like to me is I just make two different APIs. It didn't say I had to make them as separate servers. Um, Would actually be hidden. Now they're running on a wildcard cert, put it behind a VPN wire guard with no public DNS record at all. We use MTLS. I don't want to use mutual auth. I hate MTLS. Reverse proxies, no connections. So maybe it's just a separate container. I don't know if it has to be necessarily a separate container, but I guess it would have to be because it have to be definitely on a separate port. But yeah, we'll have to dig into that a little bit more. It feels like it should be its own little like you have your main game server and then you've got a separate admin endpoint, kind of like a back door. But that's got to be a super secure back door. Was it actually drawing me pictures? It looks like it's drawing me pictures. I saw SVG in there. Still thinking. Good grief. checking on work stuff really quick, making sure I'm not missing anything. What are you doing with that browser, computer? Okay. Boy, this is working really hard to build me a flow chart. Better be the best damn flow chart ever created on Earth. What's that? I had dinner, but I'm still hungry. I'll get something when we get done with streaming. Got a night ahead of me, potentially. Good googly moogly. Wow. It's talking to us that, wait, I'm realizing the subtitles need to follow a strict less than or equal to 5 words rule. So I should shorten them significantly. This is like listening to me talk about what I'm trying to work and create. All right, E02 is three base 64-year-old encoded segments joined by dots. Header.payload.signature. Okay. I'm going to cheat a little bit because we have it implemented in a couple environments of ours. I just want to go look at it. I look in here. Do 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 do. Well, pass. I'm in the wrong database. That's why it's not showing up. This one, please. Thank you. There's this one. I don't know if it's in here. Username. Oop, nope, wrong button. Okay. Is it still typing? Oh, made pretty diagram. Cool. Lots of pretty diagrams. All right, we're learning about authentication today and why it's such a pain in the ass. All right, so JWT is 3 segments, header, payload, and signature. No magic, no encryption by default. The header declares the signing algorithm and optionally which key signed it. You can rotate keys without breaking validation for tokens issued under the old one. Okay, so this is algorithms RS-256, type is JWT, key ID is 202606, and that, whatever we call that. Payload is a JSON object of claims below. This is just base64 encoded JSON. Anyone holding the token can decode and read it. Base64 is encoding, not encryption. Never put secrets into JWT payload. Okay. Signature. HMAC RSE sign, the base64 URL header, plus a dot, plus the payload, and use a key. This is the only part that provides any guarantee. It proves the token wasn't altered since the issuer signed it. So validation on the receiving end, recompute the signature using the known key, compare it to the one on the token, then check the claims, expiry, audience, etc. before trusting anything inside. A JWT that fails signature verification is just a JSON object an attacker typed by hand. Okay. So recompute the signature using the known key. So we would, so this is, I guess the key is the shared bit that both sides know, but nobody in the middle would know. And then use the header and the payload, base64 URL encoded, and determine if it works. So we calculate and compare it to the signature and the key in the payload. RS256 over HS256 for your setup, specifically because of the admin game split we discussed. HS256 is symmetric. Ah, yes, wouldn't want to do that. One shared secret both signs and verifies, so every service that needs to validate tokens also holds the key that can forge them. RS256 is asymmetric. The auth API holds the private key and signs. The game API, SignalR Hub, and any future horizontally scaled instance only need the public key to verify and can't mint tokens themselves. That's a real security boundary, not just a style preference, and it composes cleanly with separate signing keys per issuer, admin versus game. So then in the game and the admin and all of that stuff, they have this public key that can verify stuff that I send back to it. We'll wait till we get down to this. I'm still picturing it in my head. So register claims should always include and always validate, not just include and ignore. Who issued it matches your auth API's known issuer string. That can be whatever I make it. Use as your identity key. Don't trust anything else for who is this. The user ID. Who it's for. That's the audience. Matches a service receiving it. This is the one most implementations skip, and it's the one that prevents an admin token from working against the game API or vice versa. Expiry, reject if it's past. Reject if it's before, not valid before. Issued at time, useful for logging anomaly detection, not usually an accept reject check. Unique token ID. Lets you reference a specific token in logs or a deny list without storing the whole token. All right. You had private custom claims for you, something like roles player. Keep the payload minimal. 2 reasons. Every claim adds bytes to every request. And more importantly, anything you put in the token is stale until the token refreshes. If you tempted to stuff character ID or guild ID into the access token, remember that data is frozen at issuance time for up to your access TTL. Fine for things that really changed, bad for things that change mid-session. So wait, treating which character is active as separate session state the client passes per request, or that gets its own narrower, shorter-lived token issued after character select. No, that's really necessary. Roles. Claims-based, not hard-coded string. ASP.NET Core gives you 2 layers. The second one, even though the first look, use the second one, even though the first one looks simpler. Role-based is authorized role admin, checks a role claim directly. Plan for a binary in and out, brittle the moment you need admin or moderator and owns this resource. Policy-based, add authorization options, add policy. Register's name. Okay, so we do policy-based, get it. The rules, I'd start with player. Default issued by the game token issuer. Moderator, GM, in-game moderation, meet kick, investigate reports, blah, blah, blah. Admin, full admin panel. Issued only by the admin token issuer. Okay, so this is how it works. Initial login using refresh token invocation. Each maps onto your existing authDB. Okay, so what do I do? What happens when I click this? Oh God. I just clicked it and it asked a question. Really? I didn't really mean to do that, but okay. I don't know if we're going to do that. Okay, so login request username and password. Verify the credentials in the authDB. Reject it with a 401 otherwise. Otherwise, issue the access JWT and a refresh token. Persist the refresh token. And return the client. Both tokens delivered. The only design decision here is what goes in the token pair at the bottom. Access token sign RS256, 10-minute TTL, claims as above. Alf, settle down. Come here. Settle. No. Refresh token is not a JWT, just a cryptographically random opaque string, random number generated 32 plus bytes. You hash it before writing it to the authDB, same way you'd handle a password. So a DB read alone doesn't hand someone a usable token. Next is the part that's easy to get subtly wrong using the access token and what happens when it expires. So validate the access token, signature expiry, cache check. It's expired. Client calls auth refresh. I hate that it did that request because now I got all this extra stuff to read. So it gets rejected, saying it's invalid. If it's expired, the client calls auth refresh, looks up the refresh token. So it's going to pass the refresh token in here for this. We're going to look it up. If it's unused, rotate a new access and refresh token are issued. And then and if it's reused, revoke everything. Bottom part, fork is the part worth dwelling on. Reuse tokens means someone presented a refresh token that's already been redeemed once. In a normal operation, that should never happen. A legitimate client always has the newest refresh token, not an old one. If it does happen, the stolen. Okay, so that auth database, it has to keep track of that refresh token and what account it was logged in with. And if this happens, kill everything. Everything breaks. You got to re-authenticate. So if we cut somebody off, Okay. Yeah, so this is, yeah, okay. Authentication is such a pain in the ass. Why do we have to have bad actors in the world? Why can't we just have simple usernames and passwords and call it a day? Uh, okay. So they log in with something like this. Username and password. Client version just to make sure there's not a mismatch. So that makes sense. So that comes in the login request. And then we validate that. And that's going to be on the auth thing, which we talked about up here. Where is it? We will have eventually, when it's in production, we'll have it behind a load balancer in CloudFront AWS, and that'll get our network transport layer protections. And then application layer is where we'll do rate limiting on that auth endpoint. But that hits that auth endpoint. It's publicly open on purpose, but you have to provide the proper payload, right? If it is, then we return with we validate it, otherwise we reject it with a 401 unauthorized. Otherwise, we issue the JWT and the refresh token, persist the refresh token, and they both get returned to the client. Now, the JWT bit is this. So it comes in saying there's 3 bits as the header, which tells me what algorithm to use, that it's a JWT, and what key ID is. I still don't fully understand the key ID bit, but I guess if we change what the payload is at some point. Oh, I guess if you change what the actual key, this key is that did it. So that key has to be a known thing between client and server, it seems. I guess I want to understand what the expectation is there. I hate security. I hate it, but it protects from a lot of shit. So this all makes sense. I just need to understand the JWT a little bit more, I think. And this all makes sense. The refresh thing isn't something I really understood much about, but I get it now why it's there. That makes sense. So it's recommending in the auth database schema, which I don't really have much in there yet, do I? On the auth in the auth side, we have accounts and we have account sessions. We kind of started here. So primary key, user ID, which is basically mapping to our accounts. Yeah, so that kind of kicks into there. And then here, I don't think these are wrong to have these on here. This is more complicated than just a simple token now. So these two kind of get replaced with this. What is family ID? Shared across a rotation chain. So much shit to do here. Issued at, expires at, revoked at, replaced by. So this is basically a history. This doesn't go, these don't go away. The user's ban that or a small revocation deal if you want per incident history covers the ban path. I really want to implement all this stuff right now? No. But I got to do something for the admin API. I'll probably do more research on it after the fact. Let's do. How can I get started in a simple way with using a test, using an admin tool to test various parts of the game. For example, I want to be able to move around the world in different ways and have it generate things on demand using some of the proper client API, but also some special admin functions. I'm doing this all locally for now, so I don't need much, if any, security. Can I add all this in later, after the early stages of development are done? So I can just leave the APIs completely open with no authentication whatsoever. Obviously, that's not ideal, but where are we at in this playlist? This is definitely using more of my tokens. I can just feel it in my bones. This is one of those conversations I'm going to pin because I'm going to have to come back to this and let my brain get wrapped around all this crap. One thing not to defer is keep admin endpoints structurally separate from day one. Yeah, I know, I agree. So admin, map group admin with tags. His development filter is the entire security model for now. 2 lines, not a system. There are many, so mainly so a stray 00 Kestrel binder Docker port mapping doesn't accidentally hand teleport spawn to the public internet while you're iterating. Yeah, you know, this is where I'm at. I see something spatial. What is it reading that thinks that I'm not past phase 1 yet? Because I am. I'm literally where you said I should be. This is there. Oh, it just didn't update this. All right. Wait. I just need to update that. Okay. So this is behind. I gotta update this document too. Go back to this. Travel time directly contradicts your rule. Do not implement map click teleportation. Travel must feel meaningful. Yeah. Okay. So I do want to. The fact that it's a different route is one thing. I don't. Does it really should it just be a different endpoint entirely? See what it says and see if I agree. Feel like it still should be separate, even if it is different authentication and everything. It feels like it still should be separate because it just becomes discoverable, right? And I don't like it being discoverable. And then I think we go down the road of let's go ahead and get some scaffolding up of this or whatever we end up if we do two separate APIs or what, get that set up just so it's ready to go so we can implement different methods on there and then build our test tool for visualizing stuff. We need to get our documentation updated too because this is clearly wrong on our current build phase. So I'm surprised it didn't get caught. Usually it yells at me about that stuff. We'll get that caught up. All right, so what's it saying? And they're not equally good defaults. Use a trade-off rather than just picking one for you since this is generally contextual. Reshape, same process, same port, route prefix only, what we have now. Separation is application layer only. A missing authorized attribute, and routing mistake, or a future change that forgets the dev only filter. The admin service is reachable wherever the game API is reachable. Fails open. This is fine for pure localhost work where nothing is not reachable. I don't like that. I don't like that option. That one's out to me, I feel. Same process, separate port, network gated. Same binary, same Docker containers, same context, but Kestrel listens on two endpoints. And the admin one is bound such that it is structurally unreachable except from where you intend. This is the sweet spot for where you are. Fully separate process deployable. Its own program CS, own container, sharing only the underlying databases and common service domain library. Real operation, real isolation, real operational cost. This is true. The 2 is where I was leaning already. Because that one as long as it's network gated with a different port, then as long as that never gets introduced into the game somewhere weird, then we're okay. This does cost extra because you do have to run then two containers on that costs extra, period. Just how it works. Run is weaker than it needs to be for almost no savings. Yep. The code to do option 2 is maybe 10 extra lines. There's no real reason to accept fails open if I forgot something. When fails close at the network layer costs you this little. Fully separate process is more than you need and is not free. Duplicate bootstrapping, 2 things to keep running and monitor, 2 deploy artifacts. Yeah. Okay, so so then those are the 2 things. So then we build we've mapped this group. Add endpoint filter. If it's not connecting on local port 5001, not found. It gives me a 404. Cool. Beautiful. Exactly what I want. Gets a little non-application check. So admin traffic is rejected before your routing pipeline even sees it if it didn't arrive on that port. Local port filter on top is belt and suspenders. Even if someone later fat fingers the compose port mapping, hitting admin / star through port 5000 is still 404s. Ah, okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, so yeah, that's different ports, same container, works. Okay, so we will copy this. I wish there was an easy way to get this in the Claude code and say, hey, buddy, this is what I'd like you to do next. Also need to, can you update the Claude markdown in the docs folder to show us in phase 2? Working on world generation. Do that really quick, and then we'll commit. We'll do a PR later for this work. Okay, so this should be updated now. Current phase 2, world generation, completed in phase 1, in progress for phase 2. Well, this wasn't phase 1, though. Wow, no, it's just completed in phase 2. Current build phase. I don't need you to tell me everything I did in phase 1. No, no, no. No, no. This. That's what we're going with. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and just commit these changes for this bit. I have Claude write the notes on it. And you commit the current set of changes to this working branch with notes of what it includes. We'll do a PR with some more changes in a bit. Make me notes. Cool. What did it use as the notes? I'm curious. A whole lot more than I would have put. All right. Okay. We're going to worry about authentication later. So step 1 is we need to stand up the APIs on 2 different ports. So what we have now in API is little to nothing. Like anything's in these keeps, yeah. So our program is not configured. It's added some context in here, so it has the DB context, but it doesn't do anything. So, okay. Oh, I'm choking myself in my shirt. So we need to do. Didn't know why that came up. Why are you even open Discord? So we need to get this concept set up with our API. First step to being able to write code and do testing of world generation is to stand up our server API, but it needs both an admin and a normal client API. Talking with chat, it needs to be on separate ports for security purposes. And we aren't going to do any authentication initially, as we are only running on our local machine. That will all get added later. Here is an example of what it said to do. Let's plan this first. Make sure it gets it right. Oop. The idea here is there's going to be a lot of API driven stuff. It's not the only thing that's going to exist. We are going to need some back end services that are just running and like managing the events and handling chat. I mean, Signal will do some of the chat stuff, but handling the NPC behavior, if it's been asked to do different things, handling all that. So all the timed stuff is going to have to be in a service of some sort. So we'll have to figure that out too. But that's not world generation. Or is it? It kind of is. Because I don't want to thread off it's not wise to say, here's an API call. Go thread this thing off to generate all of this landscape because they happen to move into a land block that I need a new land block generator on. Do that over here as part of this request. You don't want to do that. It makes that request, it might return quickly, but that process is sitting in the background for a while, and that's ugly. I would prefer it to be they make the request, it puts something in a queue, and there's a back end service that, oh, I got to generate some land, or it's watching. In long term, it would be like an MQ, like a SQS service or something like that in SQ service, simple queuing service in AWS, where you put it in the queue and there's something monitoring that queue and processes this stuff and does it, right? It's not an actual API call. So we're going to need something. I can't build on an SQS because I don't want that to be required to run this locally, but it's going to have to be some service, kind of like when I run the AC client, the AC server here. It's just a command prompt when it opens up and just sits there in the background and does stuff, right? So that's going to have to exist. So this is one step, but we're also going to have to make another bit that does that. So let me come here and we have APIs for client and admin app calls to do things and get things. but we are going to need a back-end service as well that processes things from queues, such as land block generation, needs, timed events, NPC behavior, etc. That's not really an API, so what would be the best way to add that to our current architecture? Architecture. Still didn't spell it right. Is that a separate container with a service running in it? Or is that tacked into the same container the API is running? See what it says there. Let's go back to our code. What's it doing here? How will you primarily run the API with building, testing, world generation? Through Docker Compose Up or via .NET Run directly against the already running Postgres container? It recommends me to say not sure yet. I read it to work correctly either way. True loopback via Kestrel for direct runs plus host side, found for publishing in Docker Compose, so it also works under Docker without exposing admin beyond your own machine. Both. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes I might run it in debug mode. Sometimes I might run it just, I might deploy it to the Docker container and test it, right? So. Do you want Swagger Open API UI wired up for each API surface, public and admin, as part of this change? Add Swashbuckle with two separate Swagger. Well, I thought it said it didn't do that anymore. Hang on. While that's running. They moved away from Swashbuckle to native Open API generation plus Scalar for the interactive UI. I'm just going to copy this. Come back here. We are on .NET 10, and as of .NET 9.10, the default template moved away from Swashbuckle. Native Open AI generation with Scalar interactive. Is that still Swagger or something else? And these should not be publicly visible normally, visible just from local. All right, this is where AI gets crazy. We have 15 things going at once. Howdy. Boy is sleeping on the floor. I take it you're about to go to bed. Good night. Thanks for stopping by. So, yeah, I imagine 12-hour days are fun. I got work in about an hour and 20 minutes, so yay. And who knows how long that'll last. Hopefully an hour or so, but maybe longer. Yeah, no, I took a break at 4 and got a test starting at 8 p.m. Yay. It's scheduled through 1 a.m., but we're probably not going to be on for that whole time because screw them. So, yay, fun times. It's a paycheck. Gets me to let me do what I want to do. So, all good. So I feel you. I've been sleeping like a rock at night. All right, to clarify on the Swagger question, yes, .NET's native OpenAI Scale is the modern successor to Swashbuckler Swagger. Same purpose, different package. I'll wire that up. Get it to dev local only. I've handed the detailed design to. Okay. Cool. It's just like you can tell. Yeah, no worries. Sleep well. You can tell that this is trained on 2-3-year-old data because it's just not up to date. I have to force it to go out and look at stuff. Why is this not done yet? Give me a quick answer. It's not even let me do anything. Did I click off of it and not like me doing that? I feel like it's broken. I feel like I broke it by clicking off the chat. Probably shouldn't have done that. This keeps going, but chats clearly don't. Or it's just chewing up all of my credits. Is running in a separate process. Save. Think faster. Okay, we're going to pop this down. Now the default is medium instead of high. They just changed that. It said high earlier. My guess is high is taking more tokens than they think. So then, oh, let's just change that to medium. They won't notice. Hey, boy. You got sleepyhead face. You're all screwed up on this side like you're. You come see it? No? Okay. That's what I figured. Separate container. All makes sense. I mean, that would have been my arguments too. Is like I want to be able to scale the API, and if I have to scale both at the same time, doesn't make any sense. Background processes, just because you're getting more traffic doesn't necessarily mean you need as many background processes running. That means a separate microservice with its own structure it as a separate process container, same solution. Yeah, I know for sure. Yeah, okay. So we'll add a worker service to our back end as well. First step to being compiled Sparrow agent. I don't know where it gets these words. It's like the person that, when this originally came out, it used to say like random verbs that it was doing while it was thinking, instead of just thinking. It feels like that person's like, well, you took away my random words, funny words I was showing while we were thinking. I got to put them somewhere, so let's put them into these random file names. Your basic example for TrueOS level loopback enforcement on the import. That binding doesn't survive Docker's container net at all. The process is bound to 127.01. So the container can't be reached even through a host-only port published. So satisfying works for you both. .NET Run and .NET forces a choice. Which do you want? Okay. Listen, any IP 5000 and 5001 everywhere in both workflows. The endpoint filter 404 unless port equals 5000 becomes the actual boundary. Around that run, port 501 is technically reachable from your LAN, no auth anyway. Our Docker host side publishes bounded only one code path documented trade-off in the ADR. Yeah, I agree. Do that guy. Probably mostly running out of the container anyway. Because we would just push it out there and then run our tools against it. Okay, so world gen triggers, debug inspection, feature seed reset tools must not be reachable through the same door as the eventual public game client, but real DWT auth isn't built yet, and binding it now would block phase 2 progress. The interim boundary is network port based, not credential based. One Kestrel host, 2 ports, an endpoint filter that 404 is cross port requests. Explicitly temporary and gets superseded once JWT off land and is applied to admin. Yep. This needs to work both via Docker Compose up and .NET Run directly against. So implementation, program, the Kestrel thing, public and admin. Admin group does that thing. Okay. It's going to add the OpenAI. Update Docker Compose to do this thing. I think that's what this said as well, wasn't it? Well, I guess that works. Okay, that's fine. Yep, that's exactly what it said there. So we're good. Docker file, replace 8080 with 5000 and add 5001 exposures. Okay, go do that. That's step one. We're building a lot of scaffolding today. We have to. If we don't have it, then we can't build anything. So, what you staring at, boy? Okay, so while that's working, I don't know that I have. Try again. Oh my god. It was interrupted. It's like if I click off it, just give me a quick answer. Turn you down to medium as well. Yep. Okay. I know, it's already on sound. I thought you dumb dumb. Okay. Almost done thinking. And then we'll have that scaffold up. We'll review what it did there. And then we got to add a. So the two other things we got to add are the worker process container. And then we've got to make our admin tool UI for visualization. I was curious about that. It didn't open anything up for that. I noticed that. I was like, well, maybe I'm silly, but that makes sense. I felt like it was missing something. Actually, I read the docs. I thought that was what was going to be the docs, but clearly it didn't do that. Yep. Mm-hmm. 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 There's a lot more testing than it used to do. Rather than give you this thing that just is dog crap and doesn't actually function. But I'm glad it's doing all of this and I'm not doing it by hand. Because this is just technical mumbo jumbo that is already a known thing. I'm not inventing anything here. Just make it. Just get it to work, and then I will fill in the guts and the proprietary stuff. Okay. So this is still running, right? So in theory, status okay. That's our health check. What else did we implement? I forget. Health and admin health, and then we should have a docs. So then admin health. Oh, because that's good. 404 not found. It doesn't work if you do that by accident. And if I do 5001, then I get admin health. Okay. And then okay. Ooh, that's way better than swagger. That's a hell of better than swagger. Oh man. You make an M. Wow. This is just built in now, huh? Holy shit. Generate MCP. Open a Visual Studio. That's crazy. This is so much better than swagger. Okay, so this is just, I'm guessing this is going to be the same in both places. If I go to docs, this probably won't work. Yeah. If I take out that, it will work. Yeah. But only from localhost. It will not work anywhere else, is what I understand. We will, I don't know how I'm going to test that, but I mean, I guess in theory, I go to my other computer here. I don't know what my IP address is on this computer. Come on. Down here and do :5000/docs. Not showing me everything. That's a remote machine going into that local machine, showing me the docs. Now, that fails on admin. 5001 on admin is just not listening. It's just not responding, so that's working. Okay, so let's just look at what it did because I don't think it's doing exactly what I want it to do yet. So those make sense to expose. And this is the YAML, so only, yeah, so 5001 only works from my local machine. That's what I'm experiencing. So that is working. But then in here, can I make the docs only accessible via the admin is really what I want. Yeah, basically just take this out, right? What it is I'm looking at is in development, so that shouldn't work externally. There's really no reason for both of these to work. So is this a thing? Hmm. No, it doesn't do anything. It's just docs. So let's just change that. Can we make the docs only available on admin? Should just be removing those two lines because it should just be getting rid of this route, this mapping. I could do it, right? But I'm just going to let it do it in case I'm missing something. Okay, I get 404 not found now and 5,000. Five thousand just doesn't work, obviously, from that computer. So now if I come back here, drag that off. Docs, 404. Change it to 01. It doesn't work because it doesn't have the admin route in there, but we put admin/docs. Works. Perfect. More ways to not let public stuff see it. And both Open API documents, public and admin, and both docs UIs are mapped only under the admin group, so the public port never sees API documentation, not even for its own routes. Inherits the port 5001 only filter above. Okay. There's docs/public. So this is docs everything, admin. Docs/public. How is that any different? I don't know. I don't know why that's different. Just eventually will probably be, but it's not right now. So whatever. Okay. So is slash public a thing too? No, not going to be the right port. Nope. That doesn't work. Public slash health. Nope. Just health. Okay. Yeah, because the only map that we have is that for map get. So okay, so that's all set up. That's good. Now the next thing is we need to make our worker app. Next piece, let's plan it first. Next piece we need to make is a worker service that runs in a separate container from the API. We will need to scale the API more than the worker service, and this separates them if the backend needs updating and the API does not. This will be something that handles queued items, timed events, etc. So is just a console app, basically. But needs the same access to databases and EF and code that the API has. Let's see what it comes up with that one. It should be, here's a worker container that does your crap. And here's the Docker compose updates that you need to do. What are the changes in these launch settings? So launch settings, it had all kinds of weirdness there. Just simplified it. Waiting for my input, huh? No, it's not. It's thinking. Okay, so we get this, and then we need a Windows app that is not something that deploys, that connects to both the public and the admin APIs to do stuff. And the first thing we want to be able to do is when it connects, it needs to display the middle of the first region's land blocks, and then allow us to navigate north, south, east, west on the in the world, switch land blocks, show us which land block it's currently in and everything, because that's going to tell us did it successfully move. And then once that works, we won't go all the way to the edge, but when you get to the edge, it should say, oh, you got to a land block that I don't have everything generated around it yet. Let me go make new land blocks, which means it has to make a new region and generate those land blocks, because this is an entire region already. All of that bit is a separate task. Step one is just to make an app that can call the APIs and tell us the starting land block it is. Then we will deal with the rest, because we got to build all the different APIs to handle traversal and then the back end for when you get to that one, the queue saying I need to make this, 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 and this land block, and then the worker service will have to process that and make those land blocks. Yeah, it gets complicated. Well, eventually after that, we'll have to generate the sub land blocks inside of each of these land blocks, but and we're going to have to persist the initial set of these 2,600 that we have, but then the rest will be generated on the fly after that. But we're not going to do all of that persisting until we have a good algorithm to make a land blocks, sub land blocks. Making the land blocks is trivial. It's the actual terrain generation that's going to take some time. But that'll be a fun part. We're just kind of getting the scaffolding bit out of the way. Close that browser window. Okay. Which of the work used internally for scheduling running its queued items and timed events? Bare scaffold for now. Stand up the project container database access skeleton with a single generic background service loop, a placeholder tick with a to-do, and no scheduling library. Since no concrete jobs exist yet, real queue timer logic gets built out as each game system is implemented. Match of the API was stood up first with just health endpoints before real routes existed. Quartz.net, lightweight, in-process cron interval job scheduler, no external infrastructure required, self-hostable, fits the project, no hardware dependencies rule. Adds a real scheduling library and conventions now before there are concrete jobs to register. I want to do some research. Hangfire, fully featured job framework with a dashboard UI and persistent job storage. Its own Postgres backend storage, heavier dependency footprint typically used when you want visibility into job history retries via a web UI. I mean, I can also get that by building it myself. I'm not familiar with Quartz.net. Eden, can you give me a very high level overview of Quartz.net with respect to job scheduling? Standard open source job scheduling library for .NET, a port of the Java Quartz scheduler. Here's the core model. So this is not a Microsoft thing. This is just an open source library. All right. Class. This is your limit of work. Jobs are stateless by default. Metadata describing a job instance, which class, what data, durability set of the job definition is not the trigger. Trigger defines when a job fires. Simple trigger, fixed interval, cron trigger, cron based expression. Okay. Scheduler, the engine that ties job detail plus trigger together and fires execution. You get one via iScheduler factory. Why the separation matters. Job and trigger are decoupled intentionally. One job can have multiple triggers, and triggers can be scheduled independently of the job logic. That's fine. In process by default. Runs as a hosted service inside your .NET Core app via add Quartz hosted service in the Quartz extension hosting library. RAM job store, default in memory, lost on restart, versus ADO job store, persisted to a relational database. Postgres is supported via the ADO provider. And then it needs to survive a restart or run across multiple services without duplicate firing. You need ADO job store with job store TX and a clustering aware config. There are multiple instances of the server. Core supports clustering via the same DB back job store. Instances coordinated through DB row locking. So, okay, so this basically implements a. Okay. Ticks. No, I know this. You don't have to tell me what I'm not going to use it for. Checks, rare mob window, periodic world state maintenance, cache eviction. Yeah. Spinning up a quartz trigger per player per action doesn't scale well. Quartz triggers are meant for a relatively. Yeah. This is not. I don't intend to use this for. The player timing is going to be the client's going to think it can do something, and it's going to ask if it can do something. Leaning towards core center for this project, the E02 job score schema is its own set of tables separate from your 6 database decomposition. You decide which logical database owns the quartz table since they don't map cleanly into these. Want me to go deeper in any part clustering? No. Okay, so I can always add this later. It's good to know about. I know one of the things that we've always struggled with at my current job is we spun our own custom job scheduling. It works, but also has bitten us. So having this would be pretty good. We wouldn't have to build all this stuff out by hand. I probably would just put the jobs and triggers in their own database too. I wouldn't put them into any of these. I think that's just its own thing. We'd have another database, but that's fine. I'm trying to think if there's a downside to just doing that now. Because it's not going to do travel timers. It will do the world gen adjacency expansion, yes. It'll do Vitae decay, yes. What else did this thing say it was going to do? What kind of crap did it come up with? Offline school progression accrual? Maybe. Rare mob event windows, yes, it would handle that. Periodic world statements, yeah. There definitely be some maintenance that happens of what's cached, what hotspots there are, what land blocks we're caching in memory, that kind of thing. Triggers for the API to look and see what do I have cached? Do I need to cache new stuff? That kind of thing. Feel like we just add it because I'm going to need that. I mean, that's exactly what I need. I need something to be able to do stuff on a schedule or monitor a queue, and maybe that job is just a constant thing. It like just checks every 5 seconds for something, and I don't know. I'm trying to think how critical it is. Like if a user enters a new land block that doesn't have everything generated around it, the most that wouldn't be generated around that land block would be all the way on the opposite side of the land block. Because if you're in one land block, you know for a fact that everything around that has been generated. So if you skip to the next one, the only stuff that's not generated are things at least 51 or 50 squares away, 50 subland blocks away at the adjacent, say we're going east, the northeast, the east, and the southeast of that block. So you have to go all the way across. It's not like you're in the bottom corner and you go down and that one's not there. That one was there because the previous block you're in generated it. So if we're saying 15 sections across, I got a lot of time to generate that land block before anybody gets close to it. So, but that's the idea, is I want to be way ahead of land block generation. So that would be a job in itself to check for land blocks that need to be processed. And that can be a quick schedule. Let me just ask. What is the fastest schedule this would reasonably handle? For example, could it have 10 jobs all checking something every second? We'll just go extreme with it. Okay, what are the walls? Limiting factor is thread pool size in your job execution time, not Quartz's scheduling overhead. The default thread pool is small, 10 threads, but configurable. Triggers in the 100 millisecond to 1 second range across dozens to low hundreds of jobs are routine. This is the kind of load Quartz was designed for in enterprise batch ETL contexts. Schedules internal trigger firing loop as a priority queue lookup, not a per trigger poll. It's an O log n to find the next fire time. So job count scales fine, even at sub-second granularity, as long as job bodies return quickly. Okay. Where it gets real. With E02 store, every trigger fires involve a DB round trip to acquire a lock on the trigger row. Updated state and release. At 1 second intervals across 10 jobs, that's about 10 database transactions per second just for scheduling overhead. Can only find for Postgres, but it's not free and it's separate from whatever database work the job itself does. The real ceiling is the idle wait time cluster check interval. The single digit seconds intervals with a handful of nodes, you won't notice it. Sub-seconds where I start being cautious about ADO jobs store, not because Course can't technically do it, but because you're now paying they to be, yeah. It's at some point you're not getting your sub-second every 100 milliseconds thing just because it takes that much in round trip time into the database. So yeah, no, I'm not that dumb. Maybe you're that dumb, Claw, but I ain't that dumb. Okay, so Shane, let's just go ahead and wire it up with Quartz. Um, let's wire it up with Quartz.net using the, what was it called? The ADO job store. ADO job store in a new database for job scheduling. I don't see a good fit of any of our existing ones, and it would keep the load separate from them. Okay. Hopefully that was the only question it had. I didn't notice if it was one of one or one of two. Okay. Okay, well, that solves that problem that we're going to have to solve anyway. I'm glad there's a library that does it for us. I'll have to deal with it. Open source libraries are nice until they're not, until they get hacked. Thankfully, this is something that is not going to be visible anywhere in public. So it's not even going to be in a publicly accessible container. It's just going to be completely hidden. I'm not that worried about it. And we'll have very strict controls on data getting into the database to avoid any SQL injection of its sorts. So its blast radius is very small. We got about a half hour, probably 15, 20 minutes before I need to hop off and get ready for my work. Yay! I'm so excited. Boy dog is sleeping in front of the air conditioning vent that blows out to the side from under the couch. Got 105 plus heat indexes today and the rest of this week. Yay, nice and warm. All right. So it's working in the background. Got it. I am curious how much usage I've been using today. I feel like it's doing a lot. That's pretty cool. You can see the transcript of what it's doing in the background so you're not bored to death. Cool. It's good. I'm glad it went out and so are they making stuff now so that it, holy Jesus. Not what I expected the pace out of that. I just wanted the URL for the court scheduler. Okay. Uh, where is your releases? Quartz 4X is unreleased. That's an unreleased version, yep. Full release is Quartz 2. The 3 something is what we're currently on. Bang, 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 bang. Is your current version. See? There 1 million context to build this. See, documentation is one of the things that Claude does. It's fantastic at when when you give it good enough information, it just builds stuff so well. I've had it given it some really detailed documentation of systems and said, give me a web page that documents this for a customer, for customer facing viewing. And it's just beautiful what it comes out with. It's so much better than I would have done by hand. It's crazy. But I don't want that. I don't want any public facing stuff generated for this by AI because then I have to say it was to Steam if I ever get it there. Just want to use it for this kind of stuff, back end code assistance. Do not read or tail this file via the shell tool. It is the full subagent JSON-L transcript, and reading it will overflow your context. If the user asks for progress, say the agent is still running, you'll get a completion notification. Yeah, I can see how this would overload the context because this is just the summary. Then you drill down into what it actually did, and it would just destroy the context, all that data. Yep. It does this because if this was in line here, then this little context thing would fill up way faster. I'm at 68% for my plan, huh? I'm definitely using more tonight with Sonnet 5 than I was. I was on high for a while though, so let me see. Let me pull this over here so you can't see my email address. Usage. Oh wow. Oh, it's 68 for the session, not my plan. Okay. And that session resets in 2 hours. So we're going to be done here in 20 minutes. So whatever. Definitely uses it faster. That's for damn sure. Well, we were on high though as well. You remember that. So we didn't need high. This stuff isn't complicated. This is just run of the mill, get some scaffolding going with known tools. No reason to think too hard on it. Okay, plan file's getting written. Agent ID, internal ID, do not mention to user. Well, I'm looking at it right now. Interesting. All right, well, we know it's about done. Let's see what we got here. $73%. That's using. We're going quick. I'm glad we're about done because I'm not going to be able to do the last bit. I don't think tonight. I'll try. Not probably not on the stream, but I'll try to get it to build our app. Use up my session as much as I can so we don't waste it for the next one. But we're making good progress. We're getting the boring stuff done so we can get into the fun stuff. Hurry up! 116,000 tokens. How about the other ones here? And bash stuff doesn't take much. So the admin public API split implementation was 91,000 tokens. Yeah. Oh, I thought it was done. Never mind. Oh, it is. Cool. The new worker service in Docker Compose would be the first service in the file to get an explicit restart policy. Neither Postgres nor server have one today. Since the worker's whole job is to keep firing scheduled triggers long term, should it auto restart on crash? Yes, restart unless stopped. This was by far the biggest one, 123,000 tokens. Man. Do 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 do. You can do it. All right. Context. Blah, 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 blah. Shows an overhang fire. Sometimes survive worker restarts. The whole point of fusing a person's store over in memory. Soulmark scheduler. Cool. So now we'll have, it's not here yet, obviously, but we'll have a scheduler database. That was a good name. I like the name. It's better than the name I came up with. Kept separate from the 6 game domain database for the same isolation reasons. This is the same stand up the skeleton first pattern as API work. The worker ships with one proof of life job, a heartbeat to prove hosting, DI, quartz, the persistent store work end to end. A new project. So marked out worker. Perfect. So that's going to go into minimize all these. We got our core, our data, our migrator, our tests, and then API. I don't know if we have any. Do we have any unit tests? No, I don't have any code to unit tests, so can't really have tests. We'll have a new one here that's worker. Exactly what I wanted. I don't care about all this stuff. I mean, it's all the hosting and Postgres and all that good stuff in there. Program CS gets all the context, sets up the job. So add quartz. New job key heartbeat, add job, heartbeat job. So this must be another class in here. Yeah, heartbeat job class. Yep. So it adds a job with that key, adds a trigger for the job with a simple schedule that's every 30 seconds and repeats forever and starts immediately. That's too easy. Finishing. That's a heartbeat check. Logger log information. Heartbeat at return task, completed task. All right. New dedicated database. No scheduler, DB context, and Soulmark.data. This database schema is owned entirely by Quartz owned UDL, not Entity Framework. Adding a DB context would wrongly imply EF manages the solution. Good point. Court schema provisioning. Vendor Quartz's official Postgres DDL script at this. At tag 382 Apache 2.0 as embedded resource. Required edit from upstream. The official script unconditionally drops all 11 Quartz tables before recreating them on every run. Change this to drop db int equals 0 before vendoring. Running the unmodified script on every Docker compose up would silently wipe all persistent job triggers on every restart, defeating the entire point of the persistent store. Okay? There's the program CS, the Docker migrator. We have a new compose, the new worker service. So Docker file worker service with those environment variables still, because it's going to need them all. Restart unless stopped. Depends on the migrator service completing successfully. Yep. Solution file. And then all of the logging of the ADR, stuff that was touched, verification. All right. Accept in auto mode. Let's see if we can get this in our plan for the session. And before I need to go. Not a ton of code, to be fair. It's just, it was figuring out what that code was. That took a while. So we had in our changes, okay, so this is adding, and there's my notification of a meeting coming up in 15 minutes. Yay, so exciting. Snooze until it starts. Reload. It already got our worker. Um, really? Hey, you suck, customer. Well, we won't be streaming tomorrow night, unfortunately. I wanted to, but I got a 4 to 7 meeting now for another test. Good Lord. Doesn't end. I thought that was in the day tomorrow, not in the afternoon. Maybe it was always in the afternoon, and I just am hallucinating. Entirely possible. We'll stream Thursday. We'll kind of get this out of the way now. So we'll stream tomorrow, obviously. Now, we'll stream Thursday, and then I'm probably not going to stream Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Maybe Sunday morning if I'm feeling like it, but it's a long weekend for the 4th of July holiday. But the main reason is, I guess no, probably not Friday during the day either. The main reason is there will be fireworks galore going off all throughout the day and evening, especially in the evening when I normally stream. And Alf is just going to be barking his head off at him. And I don't want to stream during that. So I'll probably be playing games in the evenings, but not streaming it so I can easily mute myself and not have to entertain people. But there maybe Sunday morning if I'm feeling it. Maybe we'll do something if it's quiet. If the excitement has died down. We are getting thunderstorms starting, I think, either Saturday or Sunday. I think it's Sunday looking at that weather forecast. So that will start playing a part in quietness around here. But we'll try. We'll do more of this Thursday, most likely. Get a good week of this in. We're making good. We're getting into the fun stuff now, so I feel like doing it more. When we were just doing the schema and the thought design and stuff, it's fun coming up with the ideas, but doing all of this grunt work is not fun. It's just has to be done. But we're about to get to the okay, let's make that proof of concept I showed yesterday actually work well and tweak the algorithm and make things proper. So that will be fun to do. Like it's getting almost done here. It did have to compact my conversation. Our plan isn't going up much. That's good. We still don't have anything here. I don't know what this is here for. mcr.microsoft.net SDK. Did that just like show up? Definitely don't need. Yeah, whatever. This is taking minimal space. This is taking a crap ton of space, but I feel like it's ask Gordon. Why would I ask Gordon? No, I don't want to talk to Gordon. Wait, did that just change as I minimized it? No. All right, what are we doing here? Yes, please don't wipe my data. I mean, it'll all come back. It's all generated static data at this point, but please don't do that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that means we should have a database by what it's saying there. So if we minimize these and refresh, we have a scheduler database. And ooh, okay, so we can kind of see how this is way more complicated than the job scheduler we built at work. Way more complicated. It's got locks and triggers and states and calendars and yeah. I'm guessing there's just no data in these, yeah. Blob triggers. Trigger the blobs. Um does have the heartbeat here. It's kind of how we did it. A job class name. Well, no. Yes and no. Kind of how we did it. Um That's probably a simple trigger, so it's probably a trigger in here for that. This one must have come by default. It is odd that there are two triggers in there for it. Ah, there it goes. It saw what I just saw. I was like, wait a second. This shouldn't be happening. Yep, I agree. Yeah, see, it's using different triggers. That's not good. I was about to ask it. Picking up right where it left off rather than restarting. Trigger has no explicit identity, so every process start, including restarts, registers a brand new trigger via auto-generated key, leaving orphan duplicates in the persistent store. Explains the earlier double fire. Let me check Quartz's actual registration behavior and fix this properly. Where does it say it did a double fire? Yeah, see, it sees this one here. That is a double fire. 5 minutes. Come on, fix it. Let's just start looking at what it's done so far. So it has added a worker. This is the class. Woo! That's the heartbeat job it made. This is the implementation of it that it showed. Nothing complicated. Registers the job, heartbeat, identity. What the with the simple schedule start now. So this probably wasn't there before, is my guess, and it's fixing that. But now I'm guessing if we go look at, oh, not that one, this guy. Yeah, see, trigger name, heartbeat trigger. That was a random GUID before. So now it is set properly and won't duplicate itself because it's a unique name for it. Box. We have job details. Yep. Cool. That's probably working just fine then. So that makes sense. It's smart enough to do this and not repeat it. So I'm guessing the initial one, if we go and look at this, you see how it doesn't have a, with simple schedule start now, it's like this is, it didn't set an identity to it. So it just kept creating it over and over and over again. They added this line to give it an identity so it doesn't keep repeating itself. Do, do, bam, 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 bam. Yay. Okay. So we should have a worker running here now. Yep, we got an for worker. So that's good. That's the image, but we got the worker here. And we see the heartbeat kicking off every 30 seconds in the log. What we'd expect. Beautiful. That was last 12. Oh, there's no seconds on the clock, so at some point we'll get another one. Cool. So we got that stood up. Our migrator. Built this custom stuff to only apply the court stuff if it was missing, so it wouldn't do it multiple times. This is the sequel to create all of that's just from them. I don't have to validate this. This is from them. We already looked at the API stuff. We now have a Docker worker that was added. So this is our worker. This just now includes the worker project. That's the exposed stuff we already knew. That also includes the worker project. Docker Compose now has the scheduler connection strings in there. Includes it in the worker project. Doesn't include it in the server because it doesn't need it. Needs it in the migrator. That's all good. Init sh. Only when it needs to run again will it create those, but it will create the new database. And that's it. So, but I gotta run. Meeting is starting now. So, been fun. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you Thursday afternoon for some more fun. So, talk to you later. Bye for now.